Look at this article here about, trying to take down Trump for, his First Amendment tweet, and it's kind of sad. Just the way they hit him from every angle. It really it really insults the intelligence of the reader, right? I mean, that's sort of the kind of broader perspective on kind of my take on the media's attack on Trump, is that I feel insulted that you think that I'm dumb enough that I'm going to believe what you're publishing. The article here, I'm trying to think if I have something for that. The article has a lot of words to miss the basic point Trump was getting across. It's focusing on the question of whether the lie was intentional. So the crime is in the dishonesty, right? So when you sue somebody for slander or defamation, that the question is whether somebody's being honest or not. It's not. The crime is in the malice, right? Now you do have to intentionally misconstrue in order to be malicious, but it's not the question of whether somebody's being honest or not that's the crime. It's the malice. And it's the existence of harm that's the test. So the way slander and defamation works in law is that you need to establish that there's a financial harm and that there was an intent to create a financial harm. The question of whether somebody's actually lying or not is secondary, right? Nobody really cares if you say something that's dishonest. Okay, fine. But if you say something that's dishonest with the intent of harming somebody, and it turns out that there's a financial consequence of that, then you are legally obligated to compensate the person for the financial side of it. Now I know everybody's thinking, but what about the morality of dishonesty? It's not our legal system's not a Sunday school, okay? You're not God's children to be dealt with by the teacher on the bench. You're not punished for doing wrong. You're just required to compensate those whom you do financial harm to. It's not a defamation, slander, it's never a moral question. It's always about money. It's dollars and cents. The actual problem here that Trump is having is the character limit that Twitter pushes down. Okay? That's the issue that Trump is really dealing with. It's forcing Trump to truncate his arguments in such a way that they can be misinterpreted essentially at will. When you only have 140 characters, you can take that 140 characters and turn it into anything you want. It's not a question of taking something out of context, it's the impossibility of putting something in context. Context is impossible on Twitter. So when you're trying to do something like run for president, and you're using Twitter as your primary media outlet, there's no outcome besides being taken out of context, because there's no way to put anything in context. One of the best things you can do at this point is to move to a platform that doesn't have character limits. I don't know what that means exactly. I don't think he should use Facebook because Facebook is kind of dead. But I don't know, Tumblr. I'm not joking. If he wants to avoid this constantly being misconstrued in ways that are comical, really, and this is an example of that, then he needs to stop putting down these really short statements that the media can run with. I mean, there's a flip side to that, right? Maybe if Trump stopped using Twitter, then the media would not, maybe the reason he gets as much media coverage he does is because he puts himself in this situation over and over again. Maybe if he took the time, to write a few paragraphs to actually, construct a coherent thought, then the media would just ignore him. because it wouldn't be so easy to take him, to go to town with it. But I mean, if he keeps doing this, they're just going to keep doing it, right? If he wants to use a social media platform, he should really be using a platform that he cannot be so easily misconstrued over. And that should be a lesson for future candidates. Twitter is an algorithm to be taken out of context because, like I said, you can't build one. What it more is, it's when you when you're a politician or any kind of public character and you post something on Twitter, what you're doing is you're providing an invitation for the world to construct their own context. You're saying, hey media, here's some statement that you cannot make any sense of and go to town with it. Construct your context. It's like one of those build your own plot books, right? Even that said, I mean, he could have been a little bit more. See, I've modified his tweet so that it's a little bit more accurate. It's not freedom of the press when newspapers and others are allowed to say and write whatever they want with the intent to harm me in contempt of the truth, right? So we took, a couple of words and he made it. Even so, I mean, you can still run to town with that, right? But I mean, even it, I think you shouldn't use Twitter at all. I don't have a Twitter account. I've never had a Twitter account. Well, I have one. It's like a satire account, right? If you're going to use it, you have to be really, really, really careful because you have to be very conscious of the fact that, you know. I mean, I'm saying, he needs to, if he's going to use social media, he should make an attempt to present coherent thoughts. But at the same time, I mean, he's haphazard, right? If he said what I just typed there, then he would be right, which is of course what he meant to say because nobody thinks the media is neutral. He's actually right. Okay, the bottom line is that I've seen quite a few stories that he would be right to launch legal actions against, and would probably win compensation regarding if he did. All this stuff trying to suggest that he's a Nazi when he's a Zionist, right? This is not in the realm of discourse and does not provide a reason to vote for him. I'm not saying, I don't have a lot of, or let me rephrase that. I actually do have some sympathy for him, but that doesn't mean I agree with anything he says, right? But he is raising a very valid concern about the level of discourse and the role that an incompetent media can play in the election cycle. The reality is that what you think you know about Trump is probably wrong, okay? And it's because of the way that the media has presented him. He's actually really, really pro-Jewish. For what it's worth, this is the exact precise reason that I have refused to use Twitter from day one, and I've got a link here to the only Twitter profile I've ever created, which is a satire of Twitter. There is a Twitter by somebody named Death to the Koalas. It's not me. It's some pro-Israel anime loser. It's not me.